Coming up, Rashik Parmar, MBE. Rashik's CV was too long to list out on the call in total. IBM Fellow, CEO of British Computer Society, University Council member, sustainability advocate and community radio broadcaster. What followed was a brilliant conversation on responsible computing, digital ethics and his A to E mindset for staying future ready, from ambition all the way through to being entrepreneurial. I love that. Some great learnings and listening there. We talk outages, sustainability, and how a small group in Yorkshire built Rangoli Radio, a global volunteer-run platform for the community born in lockdown. We talk giving back. You want to hear this. This is giving back. And in true third half style, we finish with one gadget, one human value, and of course, one cheese. I hope you enjoy. Rashik Palmer, hello. Welcome to the third half.
Thanks, Scott. Great to be here. Delighted to be joining you in this third half, whatever that is.
Whatever that is, let's not go there, because having just rebranded last week, I'm still thinking it through myself. You're the first person to pose a question, well, what is it? I think because it doesn't exist, then that probably means it's no bad thing. People can interpret it in their own way. I don't know, maybe in a month or two, somebody will say, that doesn't work, and we'll rebrand it again, but we'll see how that goes. So, Rashik, I'm delighted that you're here. We've known each other for, I don't know, getting on 10, 20 years through IBM days, thick and thin. As I read through your list of experiences and accomplishments and roles, I thought, if I try to introduce all this, it's probably going to take up about 20 minutes or a half hour, and that's not the point. So I'm going to hand the mic to you, and rather than going through all your accomplishments, why don't you just take, 30 seconds to a minute and just describe yourself for our listeners and use a little bit of that kind of vast experience to give a picture.
Yeah, I don't want to dwell on the past. Let me just summarize where my head is right now. After a long career in tech, I try to focus myself on three things. The first thing is, I know through my world as a techie, the systems that I helped implement actually displaced a lot of people from their employment. So I'd like to do something to give back. And that's why I focus on doing things that help people find a better future for themselves. I'm on the OU Council, and the Open University is a tremendous platform for helping people at that difficult time finding a better future for themselves. The second thing I know is that sustainability is an existential crisis for mankind. And so we need to do something about helping address some of those issues. And tech has a role to play both in allowing us to be more sustainable, but also being more sustainable in itself. So that's a second area of focus. And there's quite a bit of work I'm trying to do in different places on that. And that's why I was on Natural Environmental Science Research Council. I've just stepped down from that. I'm trying to do some work on other areas around that. And then the third piece is, of course, I have a tremendous interest in digital. So I want to stay connected in progressing digital, but I want to help progress digital in a better way. And the way I describe it is, when you look at the digital technologies out there, they're being really generated from that mindset from Silicon Valley, which is all about move fast and break things. And that's great to break things, but you also need to put them back together again. So to put them back together, you've got to be responsible for what you're doing. If you break something, you need to be responsible for that breakage. And today, technologists don't have that responsibility. They seem to be in a mind that they're above everybody else. And I think that's not acceptable. So a big focus of mine is responsible computing. And that's all about the three big issues I see in tech today. The first one is the amount of failures in tech. Somebody may have noticed that there was a little bit of a failure yesterday with AWS, for example. Mm-hmm. You hear this all the time. We're tremendously dependent on the technologies. And the analysis that I and others have done say that there's about $2 trillion of wastage as a result of the failures in tech per annum. So $2 trillion. Imagine what you could do with that. Second thing is the environmental impact of tech is continuing to escalate. We're seeing, for example, AI taking double the amount of energy it used to do every 3 months. So that exponential growth in energy consumption is a massive issue. And the third piece is just the ethics in the tech industry itself aren't in the right place. So we need to get much more ethical about what we're doing, doing the right things and knowing that we're doing the right things. So that's my kind of portfolio. First piece is all about helping those that are being displaced by technology. Second is all about trying to do something around sustainability and play my part in that. And third one is about responsible computing.
Well, that's fascinating. So, and it's interesting you talk about yesterday, and we'll jump around here a little bit and probably come back to all these topics. But I was actually listening. So I first of all, last week when Vodafone went down, right? I mean, it almost felt seismic. So I was working at home. My wife was preparing for some. She's a Lambda examiner, a drama examiner, and she was doing some training, actually, getting prepared for the term starting. And we have broadband at home, and her training was due to start. We have Vodafone broadband, at home, and she was due to start training at 3:30. Vodafone kind of went down at 3:00, and there was nothing. And because all our phones were on Lebara, which is the part of the Vodafone network, we actually it was like life stopped, and what was it? It peaked within about half an hour that 100,000 people were out of service. I actually went down to the local gym, not to go to the gym, might I add, just to log on to the Wi-Fi the local gym to find out what was actually going on. So that was the first thing, and it came back up about 6:00, and even then was patchy. And we then had Amazon out yesterday, and then also on the radio this morning I was hearing about the Isle of Tyree. Have you heard about this on the back of Storm Amy? So since Storm Amy, Tyree has been out completely. So my point here is that it's not just about device breakdown or we think about the physical. These are quite significant changes in the infrastructure that runs technology for us and the impact of it.
But for sure. And we don't know what we're really dependent on until it breaks. And that's part of the issue. The web of the internet is intertwined in ways that you can't imagine today. And those tentacles of connections have tremendous fragility in there. Yeah, of course, there's lots of resilience in theory, but there are a few very big tech infrastructures we are totally dependent on. And if you read the book Tech Feudalism from Yanis Varoufakis, he highlights that we are being held to ransom because of a lot of these tech barons that are controlling a lot of the infrastructure. And so, for example, for myself, I have Vodafone broadband as well. I have Vodafone on my mobile, but then my iPad is on O2, and so I kind of spread my risk to a certain extent. So whilst the broadband was down, I could still use my iPad. I still could get on with stuff through other means. But you can't be totally dependent on one technology. You've got to have a level of resilience in your life. Yesterday, people were out with all kinds of things were down, right?
Yeah, and so interestingly, I mean, was that a very conscious thing that you decided to spread the risk, or was it just like a bit like me? If I end up in different services, it's just because I'm a tight Scotsman and I got a better team. No, it's intentional. So I do try and spread the risk. So I don't try and have everything in one bucket because things can fail. So you've got to have a level of resilience. I'll give you a real story. On the radio station, we were live broadcasting a show. It was the time of COVID, so we were all doing it from home. And I was hosting the show. We had it was actually International Women's Day. We had 5 women, really eminent women from the Leeds, talking about their stories. 20 minutes into the conversation, I get a power outage at home. Right? Wow.
And so the radio station, the actual broadcast is coming from my workstation, right? Now, the way we set the radio station up was we always have at least 2 people who are ready to broadcast at the same time, so a live and a backup. And I have my iPad running with its own 4G connection, its own battery. So when the power goes out, I could still continue to talk to my co-host and say, my power's gone out, you need to pick up. It took him 11 seconds to pick up the service and continue the conversation. Nobody knew what happened, right?
Wow, incredible.
And that's, you've got to think about reliability. You've got to engineer it in from the beginning. You can't just do it by accident. And of course, my history helps me think through that, but not everybody has that same privilege, I would say.
Yeah. So we'll come back and talk to the radio station in a minute, because I know it's such a big part of what you do. But I want to go back, and maybe this will lead us into a little bit anyway. You talk a lot about culture and community, and that being central to good technology. So what does that really look like in practice, and how has that changed in your mind from when you left IBM and large corporate and some of the big roles you were doing?
Yeah, so culture is fundamentally important to where we're trying to go, and the kind of principles that I grew up with in tech was very expansionist. It was all about doing lots of amazing things. I think we're now maturing, and as a more mature industry, we have to put much more emphasis on ethics, on understanding the impact. So the way I think about this in a kind of responsible computing sense is we've got to think about applying responsible as a word to each of the things that we do. So what's a responsible data center look like? What does responsible coding look like? What's responsible data use look like? I think those in themselves build out some of the principles. But then as from an individual, you also need to think about what your role is. How do you think about your future? And that's where I coined the phrase future ready, right? So the individuals themselves need to be ready for the future. And we created this A to E mindset. It's about ambition. So being willing to be really ambitious and being driven by purpose. So being clear on what's the purpose you're trying to drive towards, the societal value trying to create. And then once you start to understand your ambition and purpose, you can then get into the B, which is to be bold. And being bold, you can then start to reimagine things. You can reimagine what the world would look like and reimagine a better world. And then you can get into the C part, which is you've got to be capable. How can you be skilled to succeed? And skills aren't a thing that you have to go and learn just in case. We've now moved to a time where your skills, you need to acquire them just in time. And just-in-time skills acquisition is quite an important aspect of life. And then the fourth aspect here is you have to be determined. Any journey you go down will be fraught with uncertainty, with problems. And the phrase I use is speed bumps are simply your way of helping you learn. And those speed bumps are things that you need to be able to build on so that you build your own inner resilience. And so that determination is kind of key. And think about the wall of the Berlin Wall. The Berlin Wall can be broken down, right? In the same way, barriers are there that can be overcome. Once you get past that, then you can get into the E phase, which is being entrepreneurial. This is where you can become the charismatic visionary. You can start to live your life based on purpose because you started life thinking about what are the things that I want to help make better for others. And that kind of drives you. And so that kind of virtuous circle of A to E, the new mindset, being future ready, I think is key to the future for all of technology and for humanity at large, I would say.
Yeah, I love that, and I'm actually glad you said about the circular nature of it, because I sense that a lot of people think, "Oh, I'm going to be an entrepreneur." What does that mean? It's almost like the kind of TikTok mindset of, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I'm going to be famous for this, that, the other. And what I love about this is you can actually reflect and go E to A and not just A to E, because and I love this bit about especially the D, determination, because I think we want a quick fix of everything in society, in community, in culture, in work, and if it doesn't work, we ditch it and we move on to some other idea. Sorry, and it's just trying to keep that D alive, because you are going to hit. And I love the term speed bumps along the way. You just got to go over them. You've got to live with them. But if you have that in your mind from the outset, then you won't be surprised.
Exactly.
So let's talk about the radio station, because it may be worth introducing this and how it came about, because I found this fascinating when we talked last month. It's quite funny because I think you were sitting on a park bench somewhere and said, my train was late. I'm just rushing to get to the radio station because I'm recording in 5 minutes. And I thought, wow, where did that come from? So why don't you introduce the radio station? But also, I'm quite interested in how your experience in the radio is. How has that changed how you think about communication in particular, and also empathy in technology? Because again, it's looking at it from completely a different lens.
Yeah, so the radio station is Rangoli Radio, and we came about creating radio because during the pandemic, a lot of the elderly in the community relied on going to the temple or the mosque or the the gurudwara or different forms of religious service, right? And because they couldn't go, they were isolated. And we could see that kind of pent-up problem, and we saw that was something we should do. And as senior members of the community, we thought we should do something about this. So 6 of us got together and thought, we don't want to go door to door because that's just, we can do that, but it's not really going to solve anything. We can do something that has a much bigger scale. Why don't we create a radio station? Because there's a gap in that community where there's no community radio serving them. And so we thought, let's go build that. And, it can't be hard, can it, surely? And of course, we had to go and learn all about the intricacies of Ofcom regulations. We had to learn how to build a radio broadcasting platform. We had to figure out how to train people to become radio presenters. We went through all of that. It took us from kind of April till August to get all that. It took 6 months to get an Ofcom license, first of all. Once we'd got all that, and we had a radio platform, we went live with 5 what I refer to as hokey presenters. But there were people that the community knew, and it was a familiar voice, and that made the difference. And so that started the whole movement. And then as we got into this, we started to realize actually there's a massive media industry actually in Yorkshire, and the Asian community is not tapping into that. We could help actually folk establish themselves in media if we want to do that. And beyond that, there's also other areas of opportunity, which is people don't have the communication skills to be effective in their employment. So coming through the broadcast training that we provide, the presenter training, people were upping the game. And it's funny, 2 years later, one of the guys came up to me and said, I can't believe that my manager was telling me how I'm improved in my work because being a presenter, I'm more confident in presenting. And in my workplace, I'm communicating more clearly. Makes a massive difference to him. It's changed his life. He's progressed a lot in his career as a result of that. But the community radio is more than just serving the elderly. That's where we started. We've now moved on to three primaries. It's a bit of entertainment, obviously, but there's education and empowerment. So the range of shows that we now create is quite diverse. It's very broad for a community radio. We don't just have the same old music being played. We've got a range of chat shows, right from my show, which is Role Models, where I bring people on to talk about their career. And it's about those conversations which you wouldn't necessarily be able to have, similar to what you're doing here with podcasts. It's unpacking those stories and making them very consumable, and providing something which is of service to the community. Now, our community has grown from just the people in Yorkshire to now we have about 10,500 listeners in 182 countries.
Wow.
So in the 4 years, we've grown from kind of nothing to quite a significant movement. And that's all because we focus on what's needed out there. We're very much community led. We listen to the community. And from the day one when we launched, we wanted to have a way where the community could easily talk to us. So the website has a green button, which is a WhatsApp button. Click the button and you can send us a message. Right? It's a really simple website design. I've had other community radio stations come and look at the stuff saying, you built this in a way which is super simple, very, very effective. But we wanted to do that from the outset. So we're digital first. We don't have any analog technology in there apart from front end microphones and so on. Everything goes digital. And a lot of the other community radios are lumbered with lots of analog services and lots of wiring and lots of other complex amplifiers and mixers and so on. But now that's moved forward. They're struggling to move into digital phase because they don't have the skills. We started digital first.
Amazing. I love it. I was just getting this image because we know each other. I've got this picture. It's a bit Monty Python-esque, which I say a few times in this podcast of you and 5 mates sitting in somebody's back room somewhere with a box of wires and stuff one Sunday afternoon, thinking, right lads, let's build a radio station. And then 4 years later, you've got tens of thousands of listeners and 182. I mean, this must have taken over your life. I don't know how you get time to do anything else.
So we're really lucky because it's all volunteers. We've got 59 presenters, and they're all pretty self-sufficient. So we kind of structured it so that everybody can do the bit. The platform's super easy, so it allows. One of our presenters presents from Pune. You wouldn't know where she's presenting from. She has the ability to on a laptop. She knows exactly when to click in, takes over, runs the service, and clicks off on time, and we're all good.